Kalikasan at mainit na pagbati sa ating lahat. This is the 363rd session of Kamayan para sa Kalikasan Forum. We've been around 30 years. That's 30. This is brought to you by Green Convergence for Safe Food, Healthy Environment, and Sustainable Economy, Kamayan Restaurant, and Forest Foundation, Philippines. What we are going to discuss today is very important. It's very special because we are celebrating currently since September 1st, the season of creation. And that's why we are looking at creation, the very special gift to us. So we have very good, wonderful guests today. And before we start with our guests, we would like to bring to you the President of Green Convergence, Dr. Nina Gala. Nina?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Marie Marciano, our moderator, chief moderator, is the Vice President of Green Convergence. In a while, Marie will introduce also her co-moderator and the Board of Trustees. Thank you for joining us again on this Kamayan for September 2020. Wow, it's been 30 years. This is beautiful time, and it's the season of creation, and the topic is perfect for this season. The environmental movement, we can say, started around the early 70s when many of the organizations were born, and most of them are still around, still active, still advocating with passion. We have different platforms. Some are into issues like mining, forest, water, solid waste. Some are into approaches like education, legal, lobbying. Recently, the Catholic Church has been active, so that's on the spiritual level and approach. But this new bill or this new idea, the rights of nature, puts us in a different plane altogether. The rights of nature. When I first heard about it, I said, rights? Right is a very human idea. Nature it just exists. It is a being. Why do we give it a right? Actually, nature takes care of itself. When we destroy it, we will have a backlash. But this approach is really novel, and maybe this is what we need. If people understand this idea in human terms and will do what is right because it is more understandable, so be it. Maybe this is what we need. So to hear more about it, the rationale and the mechanisms, we're very glad that we have our speakers who found time to discuss this with us this afternoon. So I'm sure this will be a very informative and educational and inspirational afternoon. So again, thank you for joining us. Let's have a good session.
Yes, thank you very much, Nina. And now it's time to introduce my co-moderator. He's the Executive Director of Environmental Studies Institute of Miriam College, and he's a board member of Green Convergence. Let's welcome Dr. Carlo Garcia. Carlo, hello.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Marie. Kumusta ka na?
Okay. Okay pa din kahit na nakakulong.
It is always an honor to be your co-moderator. And
Yeah, Carlo, we have a lot of participants today here in Zoom and at Facebook. So
yeah,
live streaming on Facebook. Here, participants here at in our Zoom session come from all over the place. From Batangas, from Baguio, from Dumaguete, from Mindanao. I don't know if you saw the participant list. I know you are so very busy.
it's
Pero ang
always
dami.
a pleasure to be part of Kamayan.
Yeah, and we have 52 participants from the academe,
Really?
from the government sector 9, from civil society 31, from the business sector just 1. We need more participants from the business sector, religious groups 5, and GC members 33. Plus, of course, we have the GC secretariat, that's 14 of them here, plus our speakers, of course. We have 3 eminent speakers, and the Board of Trustees. Can you please introduce our Board of Trustees, Carlo?
Oh, who are here today? I can see Mom Vicky Segovia.
Yes,
Okay,
that's right.
are here. Is Isay here?
I haven't seen her, but Sister Sonia Aldeguer is here.
Hi, sister. Who else
Yes.
is here? Is Mark here?
Yes, he's here.
Okay,
Yes.
Mark is, from De La Salle, Philippines. Sister Sonia is from the Major Association of Major Religious Superior of the
Superiors, yes.
correct. And then
Yes, that's right.
is Inday here? Hi, Inday.
Yes, she's here. I saw her earlier.
Okay, who else is here? Sander from Save Sierra Madre.
Please shout out, Board of Trustees, whoever is here. Wala na ba?
Okay,
Have we
else?
mentioned everyone who's here? Okay, so that's our participants, and well, now I think it's time to talk about how we are going to proceed with the forum. This has been listened to or heard by our regulars. Marami tayong regulars, Carlo. Pero marami ding bago. So they need to hear this. The forum is divided into 3 parts. The first part is when our speakers, our resource speakers, give their presentations. And during this part, no questions are allowed to be asked. Okay? So, and then after the speakers give their presentations, the second part is when it's time for the audience or the participants to ask their questions. Take note, all the questions will be asked during the second portion. They will not be answered in this portion. Instead, they will be answered during the third portion. So the resource speakers are requested to take down the questions so that they will be able to answer them later during the third portion. And meantime, while the presentations are going on, the participants may write down their questions so they will not forget, and ask them during the right time, which is the second portion. So presentations on the first portion, questions on the second portion, answers on the third portion. I hope that's clear. Thank you very much. And now I think Carlo has some guidelines for us.
Oh, I think you have already said it. I just would like to remind all the participants to please mute your mic while our speakers are giving their talks. And let me remind you that you may use the chat box for comments, reactions, or messages. And just in case you have questions, please write the name of the speaker you wish to ask.
Okay, thank you. More guidelines will be given during at the beginning of the open forum.
Okay.
Okay. So now we are going to start to open part one. We have a video message from an invited speaker who is unable to be with us, unfortunately. She is unable to be with us live today, but she wanted to be part of this forum nonetheless. She is a member of the Philippine Senate whose legislative agenda focuses on women's rights, LGBT rights, health, and education. In 2019, she joined advocates from the Philippine Miserior Partnership, Inc. in filing the Rights of Nature Bill, which seeks to recognize natural ecosystems and processes as legal entities. Here is a short message from Senator Risa Hontiveros on the Environment and the Rights of Nature Bill.
Ngayong nakakulong tayo sa ating mga bahay, napatunayan natin kailangan natin ang isa't isa. Na kailangan nating alagaan ang ating kapwa. Wake-up call ito na kasama tayo sa galaw ng mundo. Sinasabi ng mga eksperto na ang COVID-19 pandemic ay pasilip lang sa isang kinabukasang naidudulot ng climate change. Kung milyon-milyon na ang nasasaktan ngayon, nawawala ng hanap buhay, nalulunod sa utang sa mga ospital, nagugutom, nagkakasakit at namamatay. Paano pa kaya sa mga susunod na panahon? As we speak, unlawful Chinese activities in the West Philippine Sea, including the destruction of coral reefs to create artificial islands, as well as large-scale and unsustainable harvesting of endangered and threatened species, are estimated to have caused at least 33 billion pesos worth of damage annually to marine ecosystems within the Philippines' continental shelf and exclusive economic zone.
Is that it? Are we done? Thank you very much. And now we go on to the live speaker who will be introduced by Dr. Carlo. Carlo.
Okay. I think we have a dog in the room.
You have a what?
There's a dog barking.
Yes, you can hear it, right?
Mute your mic rather. At this point, let me introduce to you our first speaker. Our first speaker is an environmental lawyer who has been involved in development work for nearly 30 years. He works with Ideals, Inc. and a legal counsel of Philippine Miserior Partnership, Inc. Here to give an orientation on the Rights of Nature Bill, please welcome Attorney Mario Maderasa.
Okay, okay, thank you, Carlo. And makakalikasang pagbati sa ating lahat. So I'll just share my screen for my presentation. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so my topic is on the proposed, I will be discussing about the proposed national legislation and the proposed national legislation, that means the two bills which is currently filed in Congress, and a few things about how we can do also local legislation at the level of the local government units. So essentially, this proposal, the rights of nature, is to recognize that nature have a legal rights. Note that the term that we use is recognize, not grant, because this is important because recognizing means that we recognize nature as a separate entity, a distinct entity. Because in law, when you create an entity by law, like for example, if you have an association, you register it with the Securities and Exchange Commission. But here we recognize that we are part of nature, and being part of nature, we need to recognize its existence, and the protection of its rights would mean also protection of our existence. So in a way, this proposal, this legislative proposal, is anchored on a paradigm shift. And I think Yoli, paradigm shift in terms of how we look and relate with nature. I think Yoli and Father Edu would discuss more on that, but I would discuss more on the legal aspect. As I have said, there are two bills currently filed in Congress. One is the House Bill, Senate Bill 1097, an act recognizing the rights of natural ecosystem, population, and processes, and providing mechanisms for the protection and enforcement thereof, or the Rights of Nature Act of 2019, and the House Bill 5603, an act to promote the rights of nature in the Philippines. The Senate version, as mentioned earlier, is sponsored by Senator Risa Ontiveros, and the counterpart bill in the House is sponsored by Congressman Kit Belmonte of Quezon City. Just a brief background how we came up with this versions of the two versions of the bill. PMPI, CBC, NASA, I think there was this long process of developing the idea of how we can recognize the rights of nature. And there were series of consultation with various sectors, notably with the indigenous communities, fisher folk, even scientists and lawyers, on how we can frame a law that will recognize the rights of nature. And July of last year, there was a People's Congress, and in that Congress, the members, the participants, approved the proposed bill, and this proposed bill were submitted to the offices of Senator Risa Ontiveros and Congressman Belmonte, and later on they came up with their own version, but their version is also lifted from the version that we have submitted to them. So in a way, it's faithful to what we have proposed, and that's why we are pushing for these two bills at the Senate and the House of Representatives. Now, in terms of the declaration of policy, uh, uh, as noted, the recognition now goes to the natural ecosystem and processes. So the term being used here is the natural ecosystem and processes as being distinct, as a sui generis. In legal terms, when you say sui generis, it's a class of its own. So recognizing the rights of nature is not similar in the way we recognize corporations being imbued by rights by operation of law or by registration. The nature is a class by itself. So in that sense, it has certain rights and inalienable rights for that matter. Uh, so both versions have the same or almost similar declaration of policy. And now, in terms of the principles also, the House Bill mentioned about this foundational principle, and this version is very much attuned to the version that we propose, no? In terms of interconnectedness, harmony, collective good, guarantee of the regeneration of nature, multiculturalism, and coexistence of human rights with the rights of nature. Note that I'd like to mention also that in drafting this bill, we were supported by an organization based in the U.S. who are also promoting the rights of nature. I think Yoli will be discussing more about it later. But you will note that in these principles, what we have added, distinct to the principles being followed by other human rights of nature advocates in other countries, uh, we have included this coexistence of human rights and the rights of nature. Because there are other legislation like in Ecuador, Bolivia, in India, in some states of the U.S., they have this already, this kind of law at the national or at the state level. Now, in both version of the bill, again, it recognizes the various rights of nature, like the right to exist, the right to maintenance of vital cycles, function, processes, etc. Now, all these rights, like a human being or a corporation, is recognized as part of the fundamental rights of nature. And note that the state likewise recognized that there are limits on the ability of natural ecosystem and processes to regenerate, as well as on the ability of humanity to undo and reverse any damage it has caused to the environment. So, and note also that both versions mentioned about any violation of existing environmental law or regulation shall be deemed a prima facie violation of these rights, meaning uh, we don't have to change our existing environmental laws. Like for instance, if there's a violation of the Clean Air Act or the Fisheries Code, it somehow gives a prima facie. In legal terms, there's a presumption, a disputable presumption that there is a possibility of violation of the rights of nature. Like for instance, if there's a dynamite fishing that was committed, so it's a violation of the Fisheries Code, then it gives a presumption to file a case on the rights of nature. So we now see here two distinct legal system, the system of recognizing our right to environment and the other system of recognizing the rights of nature. But these two systems does not conflict with each other, but rather it's parallel and interconnected in that sense. Same here also. So both versions recognizes that all human development that alters, so meaning we should recognize and respect the intra and intergenerational equity. Yes. And then both bills, this is the one of the distinct feature of this legislative proposal, recognizing the legal personality of natural ecosystem populations and processes. So the unit of analysis here is a ecosystem level. So because there might be a question of what if somebody plucked a leaf of a tree or somehow took fishes from the river or the ocean, will that be a violation of the rights of nature? No. As I have said earlier, there should be a violation of the environmental law would establish that presumption. And then in terms of the damage or the violation of the rights of nature will be analyzed in terms of its impact on a specific ecosystem, like a river ecosystem, mountain ecosystem, forest, etc. So that's how we will view the violation or any harm done to the rights of nature. So in terms, it's also important that giving legal personality to the rights of nature, its legal consequence is that it will have a standing in court, meaning any whenever the rights of nature is violated or damaged, then through human agency, a case can be filed in court. If you will remember, there was this case filed by environmental lawyers in Cebu, and they have filed a case on behalf of marine mammals in view of the impact of a certain oil exploration being done at that was done in Tanyong Strait. And the petition was dismissed because of the marine mammal by itself are not real party in interest, meaning they are not recognized as having a distinct legal personality. So with this bill, with these two bills, it's going to become a law. The specific ecosystem will be given legal personality, and specific cases of violation can be filed in court through intervention, of course, uh, of human beings. So, and this will require that the requirement only is that any Philippine resident may file an action. So that means anybody, for that matter, can file an action for and in behalf of uh, Mother Nature. And of course, it's important whenever there is a violation, there will be relief granted, meaning the court will award certain damages, punitive measures to the violators. And we will note, you will note that there would be award of monetary damages, and these damages will not go personally to those who filed the case, but this will go into a trust fund that will be later on managed by a conservation committee, which I will explain later. So the fines and damages will be administered by this conservation committee, and all this when this conservation committee, which is also present in both versions, will be composed of the different stakeholders in a given locality where the damaged ecosystem is located. And the court will be the one to direct the committee on how the money will be used in terms of rehabilitation, conservation, management, etc. So in a way, it's important that there is a structure to manage later on how a damaged ecosystem will be rehabilitated or conserved in the future. Okay. And then, yes, and there will be a separate set of procedural rules that will be followed. Although if you know for a fact that we have the environmental rules of procedure, but this goes to the violation of our environmental laws, which our environmental laws, for that matter, is mainly concerned with our rights to environment and healthy ecology. Now, with the law, there will be a separate procedural rules that will govern the pleading and practice, or like filing of cases in court seeking relief for that matter. Now, similar to our other existing environmental laws, we have this standard provision of the strategic lawsuits and public participation. And I'm sure you are aware of this, that mostly environmental activists or who are doing their work are usually targets of vexatious lawsuit in order to harass them or to prevent them from doing their work for the environment. For instance, like to inform you, like the PMPI, they were slapped with a libel suit by a mining company on account of the intervention or the work that they do in a mining affected community in Manicani in Samar. So somehow this strategic lawsuit will be an incentive for or a protection for that matter for the environmentalists, and considering also that Philippines is one of the top countries where environmental defenders are being harassed or even killed. No? Now, there's also a provision in both versions for education. We know it's important to replicate and reproduce the idea of protecting the rights of nature. So it's important that we draw in the Department of Education so that the idea, the system of protecting Mother Nature will be ingrained in our system and will be replicated and perpetuated. And then in terms of penalties, both bills provide for monetary penalties like what is mentioned there is 10 million in the Senate bill. In the same way with the House bill, there's a range between 5 million to 10 million. And again, uh, or which if ever the cost of actual damage is higher, then that's the amount that will be charged to the violator, which I said will be used for the restoration, renewal, or rehabilitation. Uh, the Senate bill, on the other hand, provides for a more specific penalty for when the offender, if the offender rather, is a public official or employee, or an employee of a government-owned or controlled corporation, and there will a penalty of perpetual disqualification from serving in any GOCC or public office will be imposed. And of course, also when it's specifically provided that if a violator is an alien, then there's a specific penalty of deportation after serving sentence. And then, of course, it's important that we have implementing rules and regulations. So 90 days from the effectivity of the law, an interagency, as you can see, the list of this government agency will be tasked to do the implementing rules and regulation, which is an important aspect of implementation of the law because this will supply the details of implementation and define specific terms in the law for proper administration and implementation. Now, of course, it's also important that there would be appropriation because this will give teeth to the implementation of the law. Okay, so there's Attorney Risa during the filing of the bill. Now, a brief discussion on the local legislation. So we think it's also important to promote this at the local level. So yung try natin yung bibingka approach, no? Init sa taas, init sa baba para maluto natin itong rights of nature. And ang isang anchor natin dito is the Local Government Code of 1991. We know for a fact that the local government has the police power in the context of enhancing the rights of people to a balanced ecology. But there's a challenge here, you know, because in doing an ordinance, you will notice the ordinances that can be legislated by the province, a city, municipality, or barangay. The penalties of these ordinances are lower than the ones provided in the national law. So we want to make sure that in making a local ordinance, it would be better if the focus would be more on creating incentives to promote the rights of nature at a specific jurisdiction or locality. And of course, this will require technical study because it's important, we believe it's important to have a baseline of the existing ecosystem and because it's important to know this baseline so later on if there will be damages we will know the reckoning point when and how the damage was done and it will be good to start this at the level of the provinces, municipalities, and somehow this will feed into the plan, to the national plan later on if the law is approved that a baseline of all existing ecosystem is there so that it would be easier also for the courts to determine the valuation of the damage. And again, this is quite challenging for local government units if they don't have that enough resources or budget to push for their this kind of technical study, and they would be more relying more on the help of NGOs like us or who are present here in terms of doing scientific technical study, because it's important in that policy making is based on science, not like the way, for instance, the current pandemic is being handled by the government, which is based more on politics and very little science. But we want to do this rights of nature legislation to be based on science, because that would give more that will give a rational approach on how we can protect, conserve, and protect the environment. Okay, finally, I'll leave you with this. I'm sure you will be familiar with Makliing Dulag in terms of protecting our environment. You ask if we own the land and mock us saying, "Where is your title?" Such arrogance to speak of owning the land when we instead are owned by it. How can you own that which outlives you? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, I muted myself. Thank you very much, Attorney Maderaso, for giving us to understand the whys and wherefores of this very intriguing bill. And now, let's see. Our next speaker is one who is experienced in managing NGOs, campaign alliances, and social development networks. She is the national coordinator for the Philippine Miserior Partnership, Inc. And to discuss the Rights of Nature Bill again, let's, a different aspect of it. Let's welcome Yoli Esguerra.
Good afternoon po. Hello?
Where is she?
Naririnig po ako?
Yes,
Hello?
Yes, yes.
Naririnig po ako?
Yes.
we can hear
Okay.
you.
Ayun. Lumabas na.
Hello.
Ayun. Okay. Good afternoon po. Magandang hapon. Let me share my PowerPoint. I was asked to share a bit on the campaign, the rights of nature, and how it somehow came about, and what else are being done in relation to the campaign aside from yung pushing of the bill. Sige po. Okay. So, ang campaign po is about the push to recognize the rights of nature. Meaning po, kasi mas madalas, of course, sabi nga kanina, we understand, and the concept of rights is very much focused on human beings. But the campaign is, in a way, pushing for the recognition of the rights of nature. Therefore, if human have rights, we should also recognize that nature have rights. Paano po ba to nagsimula yung campaign na to? Of course, PMPI as a network is very much involved in environmental protection, particularly in mining campaign. And because we are also a social development network, we are in search of a development paradigm that is more holistic, that is more integrative, that is more sensitive, and ecologically, the perspective on ecology is very much integrated. And we see, of course, currently that the models of a development paradigm are actually causing environment to be destroyed, no, continuously. And from our experience also, even though many of us CSOs have been active in environmental protection, there is the feeling that there is a little dent, no, in what in the environmental protection, because basically the destruction of environment is continuing. I need not articulate on this so much, because I know that you know the statistics. So the forest denudation, the air pollution, loss of biodiversity, water pollution. But this phenomenon of continuing environmental destruction is not only in the Philippines, it's global, no? And the in fact the United Nations Intergovernmental Science on Policy Platform on Biodiversity published last May 29, no, a report na in a way giving us some warning also into the extent of environmental degradation and destruction worldwide. And of course, yung stark reality of the climate emergency, where a warning from 11,000 scientists, no, from 153 countries agreed that if we do not take radical action or transformation in the way we relate to nature, then we will be faced with dire consequences, which can possibly result actually to even extinction of humanity, if not reversed. So ganun po ang urgency ng situation. So for PMPI and I think CBC Pinasa, the urgency is nandiyan, no? And in the process, no, we were able to if you have heard the Pachamama Alliance, the Changing the Dreamer, ano ba yan? It's the symposium where that was introduced to us by the Columbans. We were able to understand more the perspective of a more holistic understanding of how the world progresses and what are the possible directions to be done, no? Yung Pachamama Alliance po is actually an alliance of the world indigenous peoples and the emerging, no, of yung indigenous peoples and yung modern men and women wanting to have a partnership to look into the protection of the environment. Okay, so these are the impacts, possible impacts, no, on of climate change in the Philippines, worldwide. Sabi nga po, kung mapapansin nyo, all this, no, all this environmental destruction are actually largely man-induced and anthropogenic. And nakakalungkot because if you see the statistics, napakaliit po, no, the percentage of humanity in the whole ecosystem, no, yung web of life natin, napakaliit po ng human, but so destructive ang ating mga gawi, no. So the scientist, no, believes that to secure a sustainable future, we must change how we live. And this would entail major transformation in the ways of global society functions and interacts with the natural ecosystem. So, napakahalaga nung pag-root out ng problema ng destruction in the way humans behave and interact with nature. Kaya po ang panawagan is a paradigm shift. Yung sabi ko kanina, a call for a paradigm shift to understand that nature have rights just like human beings, because the 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 source where we came from, kung saan tayo nagmumula ay iisa. Kaya kung ang pinagmulan natin ay iisa, ang may karapatan din ang kalikasan kung ang tao ay may karapatan. And how do we support this thesis that all of us is coming from the same source and therefore should have rights, no? All creation have rights. Siyempre, ang pinanggagalingan po natin ay ang ating faith narrative, no? Yung creation na kung saan ginawa ng Diyos sa 6 na araw, no, yung terrain, yung buong mundo, and we were made last, no, and sabi nga from the dust and we will go back to dust, no. So we were formed from the womb of Mother Earth, and we were in fact given the mandate to become stewards of creation and not to be its anong tawag dyan, owners, no, or masters, no. Likewise, the evolutionary theory of course supports this perspective that we all come from the same source. Yung nagsimula tayo sa single-celled organism, nag-improve, nag-evolve until such time na sa Cenozoic age ay lumabas po ang tao, no? So we evolve. Nandiyan tayo, no? Magkakasama. We are all connected to each other. And itong Anthropocene period ngayon is the period, sabi nga natin, where yung Earth's yung human beings' decisive influence on the dynamics and the future of the Earth is so strong, no? Kaya sabi nga, hopefully hindi ito yung era na mawawala din yung tao, even as ito yung feature ng Anthropocene period. Malaki din po ang inspirasyon na kinukuha natin sa perspective ng pag-push ng rights of nature sa cosmology ng indigenous peoples. We, of course, would understand how yung ating mga IP groups, no, are so connected, no, sa kanilang sa lupa, sa puno, no, sa animals, no, and they have so much reverence, no, and respect for nature. At hindi lang po ito yung sa cosmology ng IP, even our ancient religions, no, like Buddhism, is so connected with the world, with other creation, no, and in a way, ang kanilang important virtue is really compassion to all living beings, no. Yung iba pa nga sinasabi, pati tipis hindi pwedeng patayin, no. So but we have many sources, no, that we can go back to say that we are interconnected and we came from the same source. And if humans have rights, therefore all other creatures should have rights too. And syempre, ang atin pong Laudato Si, no, very recently, no, dito malinaw, it says nature cannot be regarded as something separate from ourselves or as a mere setting in which we live. We are part of nature, included in it, and thus in constant interaction with it. Ni-recognize din ng Laudato Si that each creature has its own dignity, may kakanyahan, no? It has its goodness and perfection, no? So may wisdom siya, no, and we are actually journeying with every creature towards one universal destination, patungo sa Diyos. But ang isa pong pinaghuhugutan pa rin ng ganitong pananaw ay yung pong diskurso ni Thomas Berry. Kung kilala niyo po siya, isang ecologist and philosopher, na dinefine niya saan ba nanggagaling ang rights, no? When I ask some communities, when I'm discussing with communities, saan ba nanggagaling ang rights, they will always say it came from God, no? Which I think is correct, no? From the perspective of Thomas Berry halimbawa, sinabi po niya that rights originate where existence originate. So ibig sabihin, if one exists, you have right, no? Ikaw ay may karapatan basta ikaw ay nag-e-exist. And one's existence, sabi niya, carries with it a role and function in the whole web of life, which means that this role and function, if unfulfilled, no, and because of an impediment from other forces, it is actually considered as violation of this creature's rights. Sabi pa niya, yung right ng natural world, if we are pushing for the rights of nature, the rights of the natural world comes from the same source as human, in the universe that brought them into existence, no? The universe can be God for faith believers, a force for non-believers, no? So may the force be with you. So from this basic premise flows the idea that human rights are just subset of a whole constellation of rights belonging to every member of the Earth community. So every member of the Earth community have rights. Actually, sa UN po, ganun din ang diskurso nung sinulat yung Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Sa diskurso, sinabi doon, the supreme value of the human person did not originate in the decision of worldly power, but rather in the fact of existing. So, ibig sabihin po, it was not given by law or by an institution like the United Nations, but rather it's there existing already. And what the law or what the institutions only did was to recognize it because it's already existing prior to these laws. Pero sa pagtingin po natin from the perspective of the rights of nature advocates, this interconnectedness with nature ay na wala at nakalimutan ng modern world, no, because of the development that happened. So we invented machines, tools, to tame the environment for our own use. And a prevailing worldview that is destructive are actually operating currently. So ano po ba yung prevailing modern worldview? Yan yung nakikita po natin, very hierarchical. We think na tayo ang pinakamataas at magaling at nasa sentro, and therefore all the other creation and things are should be secondary and should be used for our own benefit. And to be used for our own benefit, it's very utilitarian because the value of nature, yung value ng nature is only rated, no, doon sa value niya sa gamit ng tao, no. So yung sa ano ang value ng nature is based on ano yung value niya sa tao, and that ito ay hindi nauubos, and so we can use it, no? We can use it ng napakarami to the point na hindi na niya kaya, no? Beyond its carrying capacity. This kind of perspective, this kind of prevailing modern worldview, we see as the cause of the environmental destruction that is happening currently, underlying awareness and consciousness that is actually embedded in our economic, political, and socio-cultural system of society. So hindi lang po siya kaisipan ng mga isa-isang tao, but in fact, this is the essence of the current system natin. How is that seen? How is this seen? For example, in the economic system. So we treat nature as only input to production, a property, object to be sold and to be consumed, object of profit, and source of money. Di po ba? So, ganun din in terms of measuring the development, for example, the gross domestic product. So, it's product, it's utilitarian. Ang measure ng growth or ng pag-unlad. And better ang human development and gross national happiness. But of course, it's still anthropocentric, no? Ang tao ang mahalaga. So therefore, yung measure ng development is based on yung wellness ng tao o ng dami ng produkto. Siyempre, the same is operating in the socio-political system where you see all policies are favoring, for example, multinational companies, no? Mining, for example, that brings in revenue rather than those in the communities or the people in the communities. The legal system is the same. It carries this modern worldview. Ang critic po ng mga rights of nature advocate sa law, no, environmental law worldwide, ang Pilipinas actually marami tayong magagandang environmental law. But if you look at it closely, the law, although the language is management and regulation, the law actually allows for massive destruction and use of our resources, of our environment. The same is true for the Philippine Constitution. Ang karapatan po natin doon sa Bill of Rights related to environment, the state shall protect and advance the right of people to a balanced and healthful ecology. So it's anthropocentric ang perspective. And of course, sa lifestyle, makikita din po natin, no? Very utilitarian ang pagtingin natin. Ang measure ng ating success ay nakabase sa kita, sa material, material things, no? Natin. So, all this ethos, no, yung human utility, man is the center of the world and it is the most important species, are actually making nature hostage and subject to wanton use for the benefit of human generations. Marami pong sa ganitong pananaw at ganitong pangyayari ng continuing destruction ay marami pong people's movement at civil society organizations ang lumalaban para protektahan ang ating kapaligiran, no? And alam natin, for example, in 2018, we are among the highest, no? Actually, consistently, na maraming pinapatay dahil sa environmental protection and particularly sa mining. So, the call for a paradigm shift is urgent and to recover yung connectedness natin and original appreciation to Mother Nature ay kailangan po. So sabi ng mga scientists, we need to recognize that it is basically human activities that is causing the plunder and destruction of environment. So, recovering because nakalimutan natin ito. Hindi tayo dating ganito. So we have to recover our connectedness and original appreciation of Mother Earth. So, ang panawagan is really katulad din ng sa Laudato Si. We can resonate with that. Yung paradigm shift is about ecological conversion. That we have to recognize that we are part of nature. That we are not just protecting nature, that we are nature. And that we all have rights coming from the same source. So, sa ganito pong perspective, assertion that nature should have rights at i-recognize ito, may apat na direction po yung campaign. So yung una ay yung sa usapin ng economic pag-engage sa holistic development paradigm, pagbubuo nito. Pangalawa yung legal, no, yung pag-recognize na ang nature ay may right, it's a rights-bearing entity. Ito po yung diniscuss ni Attorney Maki a while ago. That is why we're pushing for bills to recognize yung nature. And then push for eco-governance. Here we are working with local governments, so, to introduce the perspective in their local development plan, the perspective of the rights of nature, and also engaging government agencies, no, to push for a more ecological policies and projects. And fourth po, yung awareness building and lifestyle change. So it's sapat, no, a sufficient lifestyle where ang advocacy po natin is to live a life that is simple, healthy, modest, and one that opens up to sharing. And that all creation, not only humans, have a space and therefore enjoying their rights, no, as creation. No? So marami pong mga advocacy na nandito, yung carbon-free living, waste segregation, tree planting. Ito po ay itinutulak din. Dalawa, we have to engage the structures of governance, but also change the way we live. So we believe that this twin track is necessary if we wanted to transform society. So yung tao at yung lipunan ay kailangang magbago ng sabayan. Ayun. So ang ano po, ang rights of nature hindi lang po sa Pilipinas, nabanggit ni Attorney Maki kanina. In fact, internationally, it's a growing movement kung titingnan po nyo. Nagsimula siya sa bandang Amerika na kung saan yung IP, no, ay malakas or located, and then mostly then sa mga Amazon countries like Ecuador, no, Bolivia, nandito po yung lakas at pagsisimula nung movement. At like for example Colombia, and then India, no, and in Asia particularly ang Pilipinas po ang isa sa una na nag-take on itong rights of nature campaign natin. So ito lang po yung ilang mga milestones na ginawa. If kung makikita po natin, so there are many forums held in relation to the campaign. I think ang pinaka milestone really is the establishment of a bigger network, a broad network, which we call RON PH. And later on, last year, yung filing, of course, ng RON bill and the CBCP's pastoral letter on ecology, embracing the rights of nature perspective and also calling for to support the rights of nature bill. So, ito po ang gawain ngayon ng at kampanya sa rights of nature. Marami pong mga problems and challenges given the current context, yung ating constricting democratic space, of course, the health pandemic, and also more dialogue has to be organized even among us environmental advocates, because as Dina said, this is a new development in the whole gamut of the movement for environmental protection. All the movement are of course working together, no, to reach a common goal, and that is really protection of our mother nature. That means also protection of the human community na kasama tayo. So we hope this campaign can be mainstreamed and more people are able to embrace and understand the importance of recognizing the rights of nature in the way we live and in the way we relate to one another and to the whole creation. So para dun sa buong sanglilikha. Yun lang po siguro. Marami pong salamat.
Thank you, Miss Yoli, for your insightful presentation and for navigating us on what have been accomplished so far. I mean, in as far as the campaign is concerned, we all learned a lot, and I have realized that there's so much to learn and unlearn at the same time about the rights of nature. Miss Yoli, please be with us in the open forum later.
Yes.
Okay, so at this point, let me now introduce our next speaker. Our next and actually our last speaker served as the Executive Secretary of the National Secretariat for Social Action, or NASA, the Advocacy and Social Development arm of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines, or CBCP, for 10 years. And he was awarded the Goldman Environmental Prize in 2012 for his voicing of protest against large-scale mining projects in the Philippines on behalf of the indigenous communities. Please welcome Father Edu Garrigues. Father?
Hello and good afternoon. Can you hear me? Is my audio clear?
Loud and clear, Father.
Thank you so much. I hope you still have the energy to listen. The two long talks of my colleagues. Actually, my former office, nasa Caritas Philippines, is the major partner of PMPI in pursuing this bill. Tatlo po kami nila Yoli nung isubmit niya sa Senate, and I'm happy to be with you and to see my colleagues again. But I will not be going into the campaign details and also the legal premises of the rights of nature. Ang ganda nga po ng ating kwan ngayon, ng ating topic, honoring God's precious gift, nature. And how do we precisely do that? Ron is one way of really walking the talk, of really giving honor to nature. Ano pa pwedeng gawin kung bibigyan siya ng karapatan? And as Yoli already pointed out, Ron is actually an articulation of the IP spirituality, the indigenous people's spirituality. Mula sa Ecuador, Bolivia, mga katutubo kahit sa Amerika. So what I'm going to share with you now is my own experience of my reflection on my encounter with the indigenous peoples and how precisely can we learn from them, lalo tigit sa usapin ng pagpapahalaga sa kalikasan. So I would like to go very quickly with my slides. I think it's not available in, wait. Wait lang po. In my files. It's not in my Dropbox. It's not in the Dropbox. So maybe can I request Tessa to have it on the screen because I cannot see it from here. Do you have my copy of my slides?
Yes, Father. Shafi will put it up. We'll upload it.
Yes po, I'm opening the file now po.
Thank you. I will actually be focusing more on what Yoli has started to share with us and how to recover our connectedness to nature. And I'll be using the framework of the indigenous peoples and how exactly can we do that from their own experience. I have been part of this campaign for a very long time because I was in NASA for 10 years. Akala ko graduate na ako, but as you see, ito pa rin po. But I'm happy to be continually engaging with the environmental movement. And I hope that you will also be on board in our campaign for rights of nature, lalo tigit sa green convergence. Okay, so this is really what I would like to share with you, to affirm the sacredness, not only the sacredness, but how are we connected with nature, especially the earth. Next slide, please. I attended this conference some years back, and the premise that we were trying to push and to really focus on is that the ecological crisis that we are presently experiencing, the widespread destruction of the environment, even the climate emergency, Yoli already pointed this out, is very much caused by our distorted value system, by a different kind of spirituality that lacks this basic respect for the sacredness of the earth. Kaya nga ang panawagan nga po ni Yoli kanina pa, we need to have this kind of paradigm shift. We need to change our worldview. Kasi ito yung nakakasira talaga ng kalikasan. And PMPA is not only one saying this. Other religions of the world, other faith convictions are actually saying this. Next slide po. But it's not only the faith people saying this, those who are in faith perspectives, but also even the World Bank study was trying to assess our engagement with environmental movement for so many years. The question is, what have we accomplished so far? Ano na nangyayari? Ano na nagawa natin? Parang kulang. What is there that is missing? Kasi ang dami-dami na natin ginawa. Sabi nga ay, if the environmental crisis facing the world today were simply a matter of information, knowledge, and skills, dami-dami na. For 30 years, scientists, governments, and even the NGOs have compiled and analyzed in details how we are abusing the planet. And yet, the crises are still with us. Kaya nga ang conclusion, the simple fact is that knowledge is not enough. Ayun ang kulang. Ultimately, environmental crisis, sabi nila, World Bank po ito, is a crisis of the mind. What we think is shaped by our cultures, faith, and beliefs. So babalik at babalik din tayo sa ating kultura, sa ating pananaw, sa ating worldview. Kaya mahalaga na tingnan at suriin hindi lamang yung labas at mga technical, kundi yung ating pinagbabatayang mga paniniwala. Next po. And even the encyclicals from the Catholic Church, they are also saying the same things. sabi nga, nabanggit na nga ni Yoli yung very anthropocentric paradigm causing this whole environmental degradation crisis. Sabi ng napakaraming mga, marami pa po ito, kulang pa ito mga social encyclicals. At the root of the senseless destruction of our environment is the anthropological distortion which claims that human beings are the absolute masters of the earth. So we need to change again this paradigm kasi mali ito, distorted view ng pagtingin sa buhay. Next po. Kasi nabanggit na ni Yolis Thomas Berry, he is actually a Catholic priest, but not just an environmentalist, but more of a philosopher. Siya rin nagsabi nito, the non-human is not recognized as having rights, kaya nga may problema tayo, kaya kinakailangan ng rights of nature. All basic realities and values are identified with the human. Anthropocentric nga po, kasi tayo yung nasa gitna, tayo lang, sana all. Wala yung perspective na sana all, tayo lang, tao lang. Kaya nga, the non-human attains its reality and value only through its use by the human. And wala siyang halaga hanggat wala siyang gamit ng tao. This has brought about a devastating assault on human o non-human by the human. Yan yung malaking problema. Kaya nga po, sa pagbabago, kahit nga, kaya nga nagtatanong sila, are you sure you're going to be successful in what you are doing, pushing for this bill? Lagi namin sinasabi, kahit na si Maki na abogado, kahit naman po hindi kami magtagumpay dito, pero ang mahalaga may isinusulong kami yung pagbabago ng kamalayan. Paradigm change. Sige po, yung anti-anthropocentric culture. Next slide po. At yun din na sinasabi ni Pope Francis po sa kanyang Laudato Si. We need to go beyond this anthropocentric vision, perspective. Siya na rin nagsabi, itinutuwid niya interpretation sa Genesis. We must forcefully reject the notion that our being created in God's image and given dominion over the earth justifies this absolute domination over other creatures. Ito'y mali at kinakailangan baguhin yung anthropocentric perspective na to. Sige po, next po. At marami pa siyang sinabi, nabanggit na ito ni Yoli kanina, pero ito na yung karagdagan sa Laudato Si. Economic powers that continue to justify the current global system where priority tends to be given to speculation and pursuit of financial gain for humans. As a result, whatever is fragile like the environment is defenseless before the interest of the deified market, which become the only rule. So naiiwan yung kalikasan. Next po. Yung isa pa sinasabi ni Pope, at lagi po itong part po ito ng Laudato Si. When nature is viewed solely as a source of profit and gain, this has serious consequences for society. Kaya nasisira, kaya nawawala, kaya nagiging basura ang mundo dahil sa gusto lang natin kumita at wala yung pagpapahalaga sa kalikasan. Next po. Kaya allow me to read this part of my reflection that we need to move from this utilitarian, market-driven mindset towards an ecological worldview. Kaya nga eco-spirituality mahalaga in order to rectify, baguhin, the exploitative development paradigm which is causing further poverty and environmental and biodiversity degradation. So bahagi po ng aming ginagawa sa PMPI dahil kahabahagi din po ako ng PMPI is to come up with alternative paradigm on development, on eco-spirituality. And this transition towards a new perspective necessitates a process of conversion or radical shift in consciousness sa kamalayan, sa kaisipan, sa puso. Yung tinatawag ni Pope Francis din na eco-conversion, ecological conversion. The transition goes beyond mere political, hindi lang po ito politika or market strategies, but must penetrate the deeper core of our ethical commitment. To bring about the shift in ecological worldview, we need to revive. Yun, yung sinabi po ni Yoli kanina. We need to recover our connectedness, our sacred relationship with the earth. Next po. Concretely, paano yun gagawin? May mga ilang recommendation po tayo dito. Without this shift, sabi ng aking reflection, without this shift in consciousness or without reviving this sacred relationship with the earth, the destruction of ecosystems in exchange for profit will continue. Kasi yun lang ang nakikita natin. Ano yung kita, ano yung mahalaga sa tao, pero hindi natin nakikita yung mahalaga yung kalikasan. Next po. Kaya mahalaga po yung the focus of our discussion this time around is that we need to appreciate, to affirm the sacredness of nature and how are we related to Mother Earth. Next po. Ito yung eco-spirituality na tinatawag. Next po. Yun. And I will invite you to reflect with me with the indigenous peoples, yung mga tinatawag nilang katutubong pananaw. Para sa kanila, ang kalikasan ang salalayan ng buhay at yamang pamana sa kinabukasan. So, I invite you to reflect on the eco-spirituality of the indigenous peoples. How do they honor the earth? Yun po yung ating topic ngayon, honoring the earth. Paano tayo matututo from the indigenous peoples? Next po. Next po. Yan. Memorya po natin ito since high school pa. Na-memorya ko ito nung tinutula ito, yung mga katutubo sa Amerika na inagawan ng lupa. Sabi nila, yung connectedness with the earth. Every part of the earth is sacred to my people. Every shore, every mist in the dark woods, every meadow, every humming insects, all are holy in memory and experience of my people. Sacredness of the earth. May kabanalan yung mundo. At ito po ay kitang-kita sa pananaw ng mga katutubo. This we know, sabi mo, the earth does not belong to man. Man belongs to the earth. Kabaliktad eh. Hindi to anthropocentric. All things are connected and we are all connected. Hindi lang siya mahalaga, kundi we are all connected. Like the blood that unites us all. Man did not weave the web of life. He is merely a strand in it. Whatever he does to the web, he does to himself. Napakalalim na wisdom, very deep insight from the indigenous peoples. Hindi bahagi lang tayo ng buong web ng sangkalupaan. Hindi tayo, mere strand lang tayo ng web of life. Di po ba? So yun ang paghalaw sa kaisipan ng mga katutubo. Next po. Nabanggit na ni kanina ni Attorney yung sinabi ni Maclean. Hindi natin kayang angkinin ang lupa. Hindi natin pag-aari ang lupa. Ang lupa ang nag-aari sa atin. Next po. Sa katutubo din ng mga mangyan-alangan na naging kabahagi ng aking buhay, isa po itong matanda na isa sa pinakamatanda sa kanila. Sabi niya, kung pangangalagaan natin ang lupa at ang mundo, tayo rin ay pangangalagaan ng lupa. Diba? Yung ugnayan ng pangangalaga, hindi lang ikaw ang nag-aalaga, ikaw rin ay aalagaan ng lupa. Diba? Ang ganda ng kanilang mga kaisipan. Next po. Sabi ni Thomas Berry po ito magandang quote from Thomas Berry. Why do we need to borrow from the wisdom of the indigenous peoples? Ito po sabi ni Thomas Berry. Earlier human traditions experienced a profound intimacy with the natural world, in all its living forms, and even a deep spiritual exaltation in the religious spiritual experience of the natural phenomena. However, in the course of time, nawala na po iyan. We have moved from intimacy of indigenous peoples with the natural world to the alienation of the modern civilization. And now we have found ourselves caught in deep cultural pathology. Anong ibig sabihin niya? Meron tayong pathology. May sakit tayo, may sakit na pangkultura at napakalalim nito. Ano po 'yun? Yung tayo ay naging stranghero. Yung modern civilization ay naging stranghero, alien dun sa ating natural world, ating kalikasan. Next po. Kaya nga sinasabi ni Yoli kanina, we need to recover our connectedness to nature. Si Maurice Strong, dating UNCED Secretary General, sabi po niya, kaya kinakailangan natin yung magbalik sa kaisipang katutubo. Changes in behavior and direction called for in development and ecological initiatives must be rooted in our deepest spiritual, moral, and ethical values. We must reinstate in our lives the ethic of love and respect for the earth, which traditional peoples have retained as central to their value systems. Marami nang alam ko po, sasabihin niyo naman, marami mga katutubo, wala nang ganyang kaisipan, totoo naman. Pero marami pa rin ang mayroon na mayroong respect and love for the earth na na-retain sa kanilang value system. At yun yung kinakailangan nating tingnan at ibalik matuto sa kanila. Next po. Yun. I have written this book as a compendium of my reflection, eco-spirituality ng mga mangyan alangans ng Mindoro. After 10 years in NASA, balik po ulit ako sa mga katutubo. Siguro ay may sequel na itong libro na to sa mga darating na mga panahon. Next po, and allow me to share some of the important insights. Ang isa sa mga mahalagang kaisipan na natutunan ko, yung sa mga katutubo, hindi lang po naman ito sa mga mangyan, kundi marami mga katutubo sa Pilipinas. All aspects of life are one integrated reality. Particularly for the Mangyan indigenous peoples, the whole ecosystemic dynamics involves a process of affecting an ideal harmony among the important components of the cosmos. At sama-sama yun, isa lang po pag sinabi natin cosmos, yung kanilang universe, it's just one. Sama-sama yung natural, social environment, the realm of the spirits, and their community, and the God Creator. Lahat yan, iisa yun, hindi yun nagkakahiwa-hiwalay. At ang maganda pa dyan, sinabi din po ito ni Berry at saka si Hardy Shardan. Ganun din yung paningin ng indigenous peoples. For the indigenous peoples, the land and everything on earth is permeated with the presence of the Spirit. Kaya nga may banal, sagrado. They go beyond the dichotomy of the profane on one hand and the sacred on the other hand. Ganun yung tayo, yung modern pagtingin. Ito yung physical, ito yung spiritual. Magkahiwalay, profane and the sacred. The visible and the invisible. But for the indigenous peoples, reality is both seen and the unseen. And they are both important. Yung spiritual at material, magkasama yan. Hindi nagkakahiwalay. Next po. Ito po ilan lang sa mga kaisipan at payagan nyo akong banggitin sa wikang Pilipino dahil ang mga Mangyan po iba-ibang wika pero pag nag-uusap sila Tagalog. Kaya ito yung mga nahalaw ko sa pakikipag-isang buhay sa kanila. Yung Kamalayan daigdig bilang sagradong kalikasan. Yung daigdig bilang sagrado, sabi ng kanilang kaisipan, ang pagpapahalaga sa lupa at kalikasan ay nakaugat sa katotohanan ng lubusang nakasandig ang kanilang pananatili sa mundo sa pananatili din ng kalikasang kaisang buhay. Kung nawala ang kalikasan, patay kami. Kasi kami kaisa ng kalikasan. Di ba? Kaya sagrado yun sa amin. Kaya nga, kung mawawala ang lupa, mawawala rin ang kabuhayan at ang mismong kanilang buhay. Kaya nga ang mundo, kaingin at ilog ay mga pangunahing sangkap ng kanilang ekolohiya na sa mahabang panahon ay siyang kumukup at nagbibigay buhay sa kanila. Ito po ang hindi maintindihan ng mga nagmimina. Sabi na, bakit ayaw nyo ng mina? Pera yan. Sabi ng katutubo. Pag nasira yan, kahit anong dami namin pera, wala kami. Kasi yan yung pinagmumula ng aming buhay. Kami kaisa ng kalikasan. Diba? Sagrado ito dahil ito'y aming buhay. Next po. Yun. Ito po ilan lang sa mga sipi ng mga napakagandang kaisipan. Ang kabuuang mundong ginagalawan ng mga katutubo, sabihin na natin yung mga Mangyan, ay sumasakop hindi lamang sa makitid na paligid. Yung makitid, ito lang. Kundi laging nasa konteksto ng mas malaking pamayanan. Yung cosmos nila, yung kanilang universe ay hindi lang yung maliit na bahagi. Malaki lagi. Kaya nga hindi sila pwedeng ilagay ang Diyos sa isang chapel lamang. Kami magsisimba lang sa chapel. Ang aming Diyos ay nasa buong kagubatan. Ang kanila malaki ang nasasakop ng kanilang pagtingin. Nalaging nasa konteksto ng mas malaking paligid. Kaya nga marahil mahirap tingnan ang sarili ng isang katutubo bilang isang individual lang. Wala nang private ownership, laging communal. Hindi lang isang individual. Dahil ang bawat isa ay laging sangkap ng mas malawak na pamayanan. At sa katutubong Kamalayan, laging hinahanap ang mapayapa at maayos na pakipag-ugnayan sa sangnilikha na itinuturing na bahagi ng buong kabanalan ng pag-iral at pananatili. Kapag ka may mga nasisira, sakit man yan, o di kaya pagkasira o salot man yan, o ano, lagi may hinahanap at ibalik yung katutubong kamalayan ng mapayapa at maayos na ugnayan. Kapag ka hindi maganda ugnayan, maraming nasisira. Hindi lang po ito physical, kundi realidad ng kanilang ugnayan sa mundo. Next po. Yun. May binigay po akong article, kung nahihirapan kayo intindi sa Tagalog, mayroon pong available na material ako ibinigay. At bahagi ito nun. Yung problema natin kasi, yung commodification of lands and ecosystems and the natural environment. Binibigyan lagi natin lahat ng presyo. Ay sa katutubo, sa kanilang traditional values, yung nature ay sagrado. Wala siyang katapat na pera. Paano niyo mabibigyan ng halaga yung mga espiritong naninirahan sa gubat? Hindi yan mabibigyan ng halaga. Kahit nga po sa economic valuation, dahil sinasabi ko sa mga nag-aaral, paano mo bibigyan? Meron tayong tinatawag ng meta-economic value of land and ecosystems. Yung hindi mo kayang tapitan ng pera, at sa mga katutubo may ganon. Pero hindi natin yung maintindihan kasi the lowlands people's purely economic valuation is totally incompatible to indigenous values. Primarily because for the indigenous people's land or nature cannot be owned. Hindi nga po pwedeng Diyos lang ang may-ari ng kalikasan. Neither can it be sold. Kaya nga po mayroon dito yung problema yung paggamit natin ng natural resources. Nature as resources. Hindi yan katanggap-tanggap sa paningin ng katutubo, palagay ko. Yung resources, nature is sacred para sa kanila. Yung katutubong kausipan at pananaw. Hindi yan pwedeng ipagbili. Hindi pwedeng tumbasan ng pera. Next po. Kung ganun ang pananaw natin, ay di maganda po at maayos pa ang mundo. At yung kanilang pagtingin na tayo ay sangkap at bahagi ng sapot-saring buhay. Kung masisira ang ating kalikasan at mapapahamak tayo, mawawala din tayo. Next po. Kaya nga yung rights of nature, napakaganda pong dahil ito'y talagang very much linked, connected to the worldview of the indigenous peoples. At hindi lang sa indigenous peoples. Ito rin yung sinasabi philosophically, kahit ni Thomas Berry, the human community and the natural world. English lang ang sinabi ni Berry, pero ganun din po yung sinasabi ng mga katutubo. The human community and the natural world go into the future as a single, integral community. Isa lang yan. Isa lang tayo. Magkaugnay, connected. We will both experience disaster on the way. Sabi, pag hindi natin itinuring ang ating sarili bilang iisa. Kung nabasa niyo po yung libro, scientific to The World Without Us. Sabi doon sa libro, the earth can continue to exist without us human beings. Sa totoo lang. At may mga scientific explanation doon. But human beings cannot continue to live without the earth's biosystems. We humans are but part of the whole integrated biosystem. Kapag nawala tong nature, wala tayo. Kaya ngayong nature may karapatan dapat dahil tayo mismo ay we are nature. Hindi lang tayo part of nature, we are nature. Pag nasira tong buong nature na to, the whole, when we speak of nature, hindi lang po yun yung gubat. This is the whole integrated biosystem. Lahat ng may buhay, kasama tayo. Iisa yan. At dapat lahat tayo ay maligtas, hindi lang tayong tao. Sige mo, next po. Mahaba ang explanation. Sige na po. Okay. Kaya nga po, bahagi po ang Mindoro at ang mga katutubo ng ating mga laban sa mina. Pero it's not only about the whole economics of mining. Kasi ito, sasabihin lang naman nagmimina, edi babayaran namin kung ano man ang mawawala. Lupa, kaya namin tumbasan ng pera. Hindi po. Maraming mga bagay na hindi natutumbasan ng pera. At yun nga yung ang daming bagay na mahalaga sa mga katutubo na dapat makita natin yung tanging halaga. Next po. Kaya nga magpapakamatay po ang mga katutubo eh. Kami ay nag-hunger strike 11 days. Handa ba tayo magpakamatay? Ay sabi, nako, kung minahin po yung mina, ay di patay din kami. Kaya magkamatayan na kasi mamamatay din lang kami. Yan ang katwiran ng mga katutubo. And to end, siguro po ay ugnay lang natin sa Laudato Si. Nang lumabas yung Laudato Si, sabi po namin, this is not something new. We feel vindicated kasi this has been what we have been saying all along. Sa yung mga sinasabi ni Pope Francis. Next po. At napakaganda po kaya nga po, we are very much part of this campaign sa Rights of Nature. Kasi yung Rights of Nature ay very much in the spirit of Laudato Si. Sacredness of nature. Sabi ni Pope Francis sa Laudato Si. The entire material universe speaks of God's love, His boundless affection for us. Kahit na yung lupa, tubig, bundok, everything is at where a caress of God. Yakap ng Diyos ang kalikasan. Yung maganda pagtingin ng Laudato Si, yakap ng Diyos ang kalikasan. Yan ay biyaya. Kaya nga po tamang-tama yung topic natin, honoring God's gift, nature. Sabi ni Pope Francis, yung nature, gift nga yan ng Diyos. Yakap yan ng Diyos sa atin. Kaya dapat pahalagahan, bigyan ng karapatan legally. Next po. Yung marami pa mga quotation dito sa Laudato Si. Yun din sinasabi natin how we are, yung kaisipan ng mga katutubong interconnectedness, hindi lang po yung Laudato Si. Yun ay nabanggit ko nasa mga katutubo na yan sa kaisipan na nila. Pero ang maganda lang talaga na-articulate ni Pope Francis at kaugnay ito sa ating faith dimension, faith perspective. It cannot be emphasized enough how everything is interconnected. All creatures, humanity, and the whole biological diversity. Lahat ng may buhay, kahit man wala, ay magkakaugnay. Interconnected. Next po. At alam na po natin yung maraming CB sa Laudato Si, pero ito lang po yung may mga kaugnay sa ating Rights of Nature. Siyempre, nagsimula si Pope Francis. Please note, this is Laudato Si number 1. Ulitin na dito ni Pope Francis. Ulitin niya ito. Sige po, palit tayo sa 1. Yan. Saint Francis of Assisi reminds us that our common home is like a sister with whom we share our life and a beautiful mother who opens her arms to embrace us. Yung ating common home ay ating ina, ating kapatid na niyayakap tayo. Laudato Si number 1. Next po. Sa maraming quotations sa Laudato Si, next po, babalik at babalik ulit po ito, yung ating relatedness to nature, to Mother Earth. Everything is related. We as brothers and sisters. Kaya nga sabi ni Saint Francis of Assisi, Brother, Son, Sister Moon, we are all brothers and sisters in a wonderful pilgrimage. Kapatid natin ang kalikasan. Naisip po ba natin yung kapatid natin yung kalikasan? Woven together by the love of God has for each of His creatures. Sabi pa niya sa another paragraph, everything is connected. As part of the universe, called into being by one Father, all of us are linked by the unseen bonds and together form a kind of universal family, a sublime communion, which fills us with sacred, affectionate, and humble respect. Yung pagiging sagrado ng ating pakikipagkaisa sa kalikasan at sa mundo. Sublime communion ang tawag ni Pope Francis. Ay kung tunay nga tayo may sublime communion at may connection at tinuturing natin kapatid ng kalikasan, ay napakadaling tanggapin na may karapatan silang mabuhay, di ba? Hindi siya hiwalay o hindi siya, kasi siya'y ating kapatid at mayroon silang halaga at ang kalikasan ay sagrado at tayo ay iisa at magkakaugnay. Yun yung paradigm shift sa Rights of Nature. Kasi lahat ng batas, wala pong ganung pagtingin. Yung nature ay gamit lang. Very anthropocentric, utilitarian, sabi nga ni Yodi. Kaya nga kailangan natin ng batas na ito. Next po. Patapos na po ito. Napahaba lang, pasensya na. Masyado akong nagiging passionate. At sabi nga ni Pope Francis, we no longer speak the language of fraternity and beauty in our relationship with the world. Our attitude will be that of masters, consumers, ruthless exploiters. Tayo lang ay naninira, consumers na lang tayo kasi hindi natin itinuturing ang kalikasan bilang ating kapatid at tayo nangingibabaw. Wala tayong relasyon, wala tayong kaugnayan. Kahit nga po yung mga halaman ngayon, ang tingin ay pag-aari, hindi mo naman siya tinuturing na something na bahagi mo. Kundi nagagandahan ka sa kanya, binibili mo pag-aari. Habang ang pagtingin natin pag-aari, utilitarian, hindi tayo nakakarating sa tunay na appreciation kagaya ng mga katutubo na ang kalikasan ay aking kapatid, may halaga, kaugnay ako. Hindi ko lang siya pag-aari. Next po. Kaya mga nag-aalaga ng halaman, sana may added value, no? Hindi lang siya pag-aari. At sabi ni, ito na alam na natin, to sabi ni Pope Francis to end, for human beings to destroy biological diversity of God's creation, to degrade the integrity of the earth by causing changes in its... Kita nyo, ang language po nito, very much connected sa statement ni Atty. Maki kanina. For human beings to degrade the integrity of the earth by causing changes in its climate, stripping the earth of its natural forests, to contaminate the waters of its land, air, and its life, these are sins. Kasalanan. To commit a crime against the natural world is a sin against ourselves and a sin against God. Kaya nga dapat may batas eh. May punitive measure dito, attorney. Kasi kasalanan. Theologically, kasalanan to. Sa batas, criminal act to kapag sinira mo yung kalikasan, di ba? Kaya theologically, may foundation din tayo. Sige po, next po. Palagay ko tapos na yan. Yan na yan. Yan na lang po. Yan. Kaya sa ating, ang ating panya, ipagtanggol ang kalikasan sa nalayan at bahagi ng ating buhay, yamang pamana for the rights of nature. Salamat po. Sensya na napahaba.
Father Edu, salamat, salamat. Thank you for that very inspiring and moving presentation. Tamang-tama siya for the season of creation. Merong umiingay. By the way, you will be happy to know that Father Edu's article on the lifestyle of indigenous peoples will be put in our virtual library at the GC website. Access nyo lang website namin. The title is Affirming the Sacredness of the Earth. Wow, Father Edu, napahaba nga talaga. But I couldn't stop you because it was so good. Ang ganda, very inspiring. But now we will have to, we're entering the third part of Kamayan Forum. Dito na, the second portion pa lang pala, kung kailan magtatanong ang ating mga participants. We don't have much time. Time check, it's almost 5 o'clock, tama ba? It's 4:18. Oh, 4:18, 5. So we have 1 hour for questions and answers. So we can't take too many questions, okay? So let me remind you, we're opening the open forum now, that you will need to give your you will need to, that the questions will not be answered here. That's what I wanted to say. And the rest, Carlo can give you. Carlo?
Allow me to remind you of these basic rules. I know you know this already. This is just a reminder. So if you wish to ask a question, so click the raise hand button. You may also call our attention by the chat box. Once you are called, tell us your name and organizational affiliation. And please make your questions brief and straight to the point. You may also write your questions in the chat box. Don't forget to write the name of the speaker that you wish to ask. And we will take as many questions as we deem our speakers can answer within the time limitations. And other questions may be parked to be asked later if time allows. Sorry?
Oh, okay, since we don't have much time, let's start. Keep your questions short. I think we have time now for about 5 questions. So let's go. Quick. Bilis natin. First question. Anyone?
Dr. Galang po has a question.
Okay. Dr. Galang? Nina?
Yeah, thank you, Father Edu, Yoli, and Attorney Maki. I'll be quick, no? I'm asking the question since baka, so as to save time, baka walang mag-question kaagad. Anyway, my question is for Attorney. I read the bill.
Yes, ma'am.
And you explained it very well. First, one question lang. You mentioned that we have different environmental laws, but it seems that this law goes beyond it. So I just wanted to be clarified on how is the relationship? If it goes against the Clean Air Act, do you also mention this law, or are there crimes which are beyond these laws and therefore will be taken care of by this Rights of Nature bill? Number two, I read the law and it's the bill, and it says we should not destroy or we should not exploit a resource beyond the sustainability. That's very understandable when it and biological resources. But when it comes to minerals, which are not renewable, parang wala na talaga, kailangan talagang walang mining, which is just fine for us. But therefore, all mining and quarrying will already be a no-no. That's the implication.
Yes.
Okay, that's all over. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. For the first question.
Okay, no, you don't answer it first.
Okay, sorry.
Answer it on the third part. Okay. More questions?
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Tessa. A question for attorney. Is the rights of nature applicable to pristine ecosystems only that will get destroyed, or what if the ecosystem is already destroyed? Can we still apply the rights of nature? That's one. And to Yoli, how is DNR's reception to the bill? The reception of DNR to the bill. And to Father Edu, the problem, I think, is that our leaders and decision makers have already their own paradigm, which is mostly economic. So how can we possibly change the paradigm of our decision makers? Okay, those are the three questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Tessa. That's Tessa Oliva, Executive Director of Green Convergence. Next question, please. We have room for 3 more questions. Are there any written questions?
There's no question in the chat box, Marie.
Okay, thank you, Carlo. Your eyes are better than mine, so. Any more questions from our participants, Shafi? Is anyone raising his or her hand?
None so far po. Maybe we can answer the questions na po.
Okay, I think the reason why there are not many questions is that the presenters made a very clear presentation, no? Up to now,
How do we ask the question?
iniisip ko pa yung mga pinagsasabi nila eh.
I think there's another question. I think ano wants to ask a question.
Miss
Cora
Dirihe.
Okay. Yes, Cora, go ahead.
I have a question, but it sounds very simplistic.
It's okay.
We heard that we are supposed to respect the goodness of every creature, not only the natural resources, not only the land, the air, the seas, no, but also the birds of the sea, the animals. They are supposed to be our brothers and sisters, no? But there's also such a thing as utilitarianism. So we people, we eat the fish. We also eat pork, chicken, the beef of. Okay, so how far do we go in this kind of utilitarianism? Di ba? Brothers sila, sisters sila. So why are we allowed to eat these things? No? And how far do we go in treating them as brothers and sisters? Because there are also harmful living things, like the lion, the tiger, those kinds of animals, no, who can harm us, no. If we come into their presence, I'm sure they will bite us. But they're supposed to be our brothers and sisters. So how far are we in treating them as our brothers and sisters?
Yes, thank you, Cora. I think your question is very clear. So if there are no more questions, we will proceed to for part 3, which is the answers to your questions. I think there are questions for each of our guest speakers. So should we start with a lady, Miss Yoli, to answer the questions directed at you
Opo.
or directed to
Yung sa akin, what is the response of the DENR? Actually, what we did in terms of engaging DENR in relation to Ron, we first had a dialogue with DMB because BMB is the most, in a way, progressive section because of the DENR. And they have a very good reception, in fact. They attended the Congress, the Rights of Nature PH Congress, and but however, they are saying that there is a need to review other laws, environmental laws, which is somehow can be duplicating the RON bill. No, that's their advice at the moment. But looking at DNR now in the way they're also engaging communities, in particular with regards to environmental protection, sa amin napakababa ng rating namin sa DENR, even sa especially sa usapin ng mining. So but we intend to discuss with them this framework. Baka naman maliwanagan.
Baka naman. Thank you for that. No more questions ba for you, Yoli, Miss Yoli? Wala na bang questions?
I answer about the ni Chris o lahat ba kami answer doon? Si Father.
Pwede.
Yes.
Sagutin mo na.
Yung kay Chris, kasi that's also the question of the communities, of course, the farmers. So they're saying, so what do you mean rights of nature? Can we not anymore eat the fish or because they have rights, no? Ang perspective po natin doon, because we are in a web of life, and it is to our also to all our interest na merong di ba sa ating cycle ng web of life nung tayo estudyante, meron talagang predator and everything. Ang we are against, ang gusto nating i-penalize at baguhin is the way yung consumption natin ay sobra at mapanira na. But for example, yung fisher folks, sabi namin, of course, we are protecting the small fisher folks because you have to be able to catch fish na para sa sapat, no? Kung sapat ang gamit natin, mas walang problema kung sapat. Kaya lang ngayon kasi yung mga big corporations hindi sapat eh. It's too much, therefore destroying, no? And yun pong sinasabi ni Nanay din na how about yung mga lions, they can also yung perspective po natin kasi ng ecosystem, each has a space sana. But it's the people intruding, sinisira yung nung mga lions and everything. They will not, di ba, kill us if they are there in the wild and doing their own thing and yung life. Hindi naman sila aatake. If they are not threatened, that's the ng animals. If they are not threatened, hindi ka naman nila gagalawin. So kaya dapat yung perspective na we live in one community and there should be a space for every creation and creature. And therefore yung the web of life is there. Talagang may period na kailangan natin kainin yung gulay or yung and then we go back. Ganun lang po yung perspective ng rights of nature, a space for everybody and the interconnectedness and the balance ng roles and functions of each creature should be maintained para yung buhay ay maalwan at synchronized at harmonious.
Thank you. By the way, Yoli, ang ganda ng background mo, ha?
Oo. Laging sinasabi ng mga na pag nakikita, yung ganda ng mo.
Ang ganda ng background mo, ingit ako. Okay. Next, shall we?
Marie?
Yes?
I just would like to inform you that we have 2 questions in the chat box.
Okay, we will ask them after. Oh, you want to ask them now para baka merong sasagutin si Yoli. Sige, go ahead, Carlo.
Okay, I'll read these two questions now from
Yeah.
Dayan Magi of Forest Foundation, Philippines. For Attorney Madirazo, given the minimal fraction or green courts that are handling environmental cases, despite the availability of rules of procedure for NVI cases, what could possibly be a hurdle among NVI lawyers, practitioners in handling cases related to RON? And from Jerome Montemayor, will there be a global body that will oversee the right of nature, especially if the issue involves multiple countries versus nature?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Carlo. So that's it. We're not going to take any more questions. We have no more time. We have to give time to our resource speakers to answer the questions properly. Okay. So, Miss Yoli, may sasagutin ka ba doon? Siguro yung second question, no?
Parang si attorney na po yata yung
Yun
tinatanong
ba?
doon.
Okay.
Opo.
Okay.
Okay na po ako.
We will now shift to Attorney Maderaso.
Okay.
Madaming questions for
Madaming tanong. Okay, thank you for the question of Ma'am Nina Galang with respect to violation of environmental laws. I think yes, this is usually the question. No, we have existing environmental laws. So, like for violation of Clean Air Act, there would be a different set of violation for the rights of nature. So like what I pointed out in the bill earlier, a violation of existing environmental laws like Clean Air Act, Fisheries Code establishes a prima facie case for filing a case for the rights of nature. So what we will be looking at here is the damage done. So if the damage done is to such standard that in terms of the standard set by the law is that it warrants the filing of the case, then a second case, a different case, no? So a violator would be prosecuted or would be a case would be filed against him on the basis of violation of the environmental laws like a Clean Air Act. And then a second case, which is different, with it has separate set of elements of violation. And then, so in effect, they would be facing violations of two laws separately, and that will not violate the right to double jeopardy because it prescribed two sets of violation. Now, with respect to mining and other similar extractive activities, in effect, it will have, I think it will have the net effect of really preventing any activities that would really result in a damage to the environment that in terms of the standards set by the law, it will mean a violation of the rights of nature, like the right to exist, right to continue, right to clean air. So if these rights are violated, then that's the measure. So even whether it's mining or not, for as long as it violates the rights prescribed in the law, then a person can, a natural person can file a case for and in behalf of the rights of nature. Now, with respect to the question of whether we can file a case in relation to resources which are already destroyed or should be rehabilitated, I will answer it in this way because if we have this law on, we have the principle on, we cannot impose a law which has a retroactive effect, especially if it has a penalty. Now, if the if the destruction continues even after the effectivity of the rights of nature, assuming it becomes a law, then that violator can be prosecuted under RON, and a case will be filed for him or her or the corporation to rehabilitate or restore the destroyed ecosystem. Otherwise, the destruction that happened prior to the passage of this law will not be covered because it will violate our constitutional right to against ex post facto law. And with respect to the question of the traction, with respect to the practice of environmental lawyers, I think it will have we will have the same set of problems and maybe even more, because filing this case under Ron will really require technical basis, because if we say that the right to exist of a specific ecosystem has been damaged, so even there are information, we should be able to translate this into evidence, and meaning this technical study should be able to sustain the test of admissibility in court. And that's why I'm saying it would be more, um, it would require really a lot of work for environmental lawyers to prove that. But then again, the law, as the law has or the proposed bill has indicated, it has put a prima facie presumption whenever there's a violation of the environmental laws, the existing environmental laws, there's a presumption that the rights of nature has been violated in that regard. Now, with respect to the uh, this international, what do you call this? A global body that will oversee the rights of nature. We don't have that yet, but I know for a fact that at the level of the United Nations, they are now discussing about the right to environment as an international, as part of the international human rights. At the moment, our right to environment is recognized under our existing national laws of other countries, and same with the Philippines. But now within the UN system, there is now a move to have a convention that will recognize the rights of the right to environment. Of course, that's different from the rights of nature, but somehow it will be a big step towards pushing the rights of nature at a global level or international level, where countries will be working as one in dealing with violation to the rights of nature. Thank you. I think I've answered
That's
the
it.
question. Thank you.
You've answered all the questions. Dami na na. Thank you very much, Attorney Madaraso. So finally, the last one, Father Edu.
I think I only have one question to answer from Tessa about how do we go beyond the economic paradigm. Paano nga ba? I think start with the conviction that we need to really go beyond the prevailing mere economic paradigm. Otherwise, we will be continually having problems, crisis after crisis. Kasi the prevailing purely economic paradigm does not work. Yun yung premise yun ng Laudato Si. Yun yung premise ng Laudato Si. Hindi umuubra, nasisira ang mundo. Bakit? Kasi because of the prevailing utilitarian, anthropocentric economic paradigm. So we need to really have this conviction. We cannot do otherwise. Kung gusto mong maligtas ang mundo, we need to go beyond this prevailing paradigm. So if we cannot really go beyond, we can just expand. Halimbawa, kahit nga itong expand the paradigm, kahit nga itong COVID, this is not purely health issue. This is not purely economic issue. Kasi babalik at babalik pa rin tayo. The cause of COVID pandemic is the destruction of the ecosystem, especially the habitat. So kung ang kita mo lang economic, ang iyong analysis, hindi mo nakita ano bang ugat, ay nasisira kasi yung, at kung hindi mo haharapin yon, patuloy. Hindi lang to yung COVID, marami pang ibang pandemic ang darating. Kasi hindi natin hinaharap yung tunay na problema. We need to expand the paradigm. Thank you.
Okay.
That's it. Okay na? Okay, Father, thank you very much. And now, good news. We have time for 2 more questions. So if there are more questions written or otherwise, let's hear them.
Sister Sonia Marie?
Yes?
Sister Sonia is just asking if the PowerPoint presentations will be posted on FB or somewhere else.
Yes, it will be in our virtual library.
Okay.
That's in our website, but I don't know about FB.
Okay.
At least it will be in our virtual library, sister. So are there any more questions, comments, reactions? There are many reactions in our chat box. Many thanking our speakers for all their beautiful presentations. So
Wanda
thank
is
you very
raising
much.
her hand.
Comments?
Comment.
Can I comment?
Yes, sister, go ahead.
My comment is this. I think after hearing all of them, and particularly the last input of Father Edu, the challenge for me now is, am I prepared to be transformed? Unless I am transformed, I cannot enter into the worldview that you are inviting us to. And so, if I am willing to enter into that worldview, what steps should I do so that I can be transformed? Kasi I cannot remain, having heard all of you, I cannot remain where I am if I am honest with myself.
That's a good question, sister. And I think siguro si Father Edu can answer that.
I'm
Maybe.
just answering sister through the chat, saying that thank you, sister. That's precisely the challenge. Pope Francis calls it ecological conversion.
That's why we have the season of creation, right? So that we can think about how we have been neglecting creation and how we are going to relate with it on a personal level, and how we are going to change our consciousness so that we are able to bring about a better world. So, sister, I agree with you. It's something that we all need to do, and we have to be honest with ourselves. Ano, paano ba natin gagawin ito, di ba?
Marie?
Yes, Yoli.
Oo. Can I also share something?
Yes, please do.
Kasi it's really very important yung personal individual transformation, sabi ko nga kanina. So we transform society, the systems of course which we engage in. But the need also for individuals to be transformed. Sabi kanina ni Father Edu is yung ecological conversion na panawagan ng Laudato Si. Siguro we can start dun yung sabi ko kanina dun sa campaign natin na yung living a sapat lifestyle, no? Na kung saan yung ating ang tawag diyan consumption ay tinitingnan natin, no? Kasi pag nagko-consume po tayo ng maraming bagay, halimbawa cellphone, palagi tayong nagpapalit, they create stress sa ating environment, no? Dahil kinukuha po yung mga minerals diyan sa loob ng mga cellphone na yan. So we have to review and ask questions. How can we live a simple life? Siguro isang start yan. And in fact, this is a struggle. Ako po, sarili ko rin ganun eh. It's a struggle when you yourself are trying to reform yourself and open yourself to this new paradigm. Hindi po madali. But gawin po natin unti-unti, one step at a time.
Okay, thank you very much. This is so inspiring. Carlo, do you want to say something? Parang you want to say something.
Wala naman.
Napapag-isip-isipan mo ba yung mga pinag-uusapan natin dito? Abigat, no?
Well, of course, the collective message of our speakers is loud and clear, that we all promote and uphold the rights of nature, but the paradigm shift and eco-conversion is necessary. Yeah.
Yes, and it begins with ourselves, right?
Right.
Ang take ko dito is we have always been looking outside to blame or for solutions. Laging sa labas tayo nakatingin eh. But it's time for us to look inward, no? to see ourselves, to feel ourselves. I used to say that we cannot, I used to hold these inner ecology workshops, and I would say that we cannot heal nature if we cannot heal ourselves. And yung healing ourselves is not just physically, yung may sakit tayo, na, but spiritually, our thoughts, our, everything, the whole of us. If we can't heal the whole of us, then we can't heal the earth. So it really starts from us, I think. Sister Sonia, di ba?
And I can say, you were saying, no, na what I was thinking kasi is green convergence
Yes.
is already a transformative community.
Yes.
And if green convergence discern together with our allies and our other members, we can become practicing communities
Yes.
towards this. Because, we said we have to start with ourselves. We cannot transform ourselves on our own. We get transformed through interaction with people. And I feel that we, in the family, the Green Convergence family, is an ideal situation to spearhead this revolution in our own being.
Here, Nina. Okay. Our Green Convergence Core Planning is coming up soon, and we're going to invite our members to help us with the planning for our future actions and programs. So stay tuned. You're going to be receiving communication from us. We have many members present right now in this forum. So please wait for our communication and please participate in our core planning. So now it's time for what? It's time to wrap up. But actually, baka meron pa kayong gustong sabihin. While the conversation is so nice, it's so nakakataba ng puso, and it makes you want to do something, to really change. And parang we really have to remember that what we see outside is who we are inside, no? Yes, sister, what were you saying? You were saying something, sister? Oh, nawala na si Sister Sonia. I
was just saying to Sister Hermie, God is sending us so many helps. I mean, the three speakers were really excellent.
Yes.
And so,
we can give them a round of applause kasi tayo, no? So, virtual round of applause for all our speakers. Thank you very much.
There.
Marie?
Yes?
I wanted to ask something else. Pwede pa?
Pwede pa. Yes. We still have time.
Yes. Father Edu, you've been working with the Mangyans and maybe other indigenous peoples. And Miriam College also has partner community in Tanay, where we work with the indigenous Aitas. Yes, of course they have their way of life, and really they're the guardians of nature, no? But we also see that they feel that they see the necessity of earning money. So, for example, from the fruits of nature, like fruits, they make jams, they make other articles for use for sale. So how do you think that is affecting their paradigm, Father?
Ang hirap ng tanong niyo.
Good question.
But siguro totoo po 'yun. Kasi may mga the indigenous peoples, we do not need to romanticize naman them, di ba?
Correct.
They have come to adapt to a new way of life. Iba kasi yung mga traditional na talaga nasa taas na walang contact to the lowland. But they have come to learn the lowlands way, including they're entering into the market economy. Kahit na nga po ang mga may market, pumasok na sila doon sa sistema na yon. So I agree, we need to help them also to adapt. This is the reason why in the Mangyan Mission we also have for scholarship. Kailangan nilang edukasyon. Nandito rin po yung kay Sharon. Responsibility of teaching the younger generation for the lowland ways at saka ganun din for earning. Kasi nandun na, hindi natin mapipilit at maiiwasan kasi pumasok na sila sa market economy. So, but just as we try as much as possible to hold on to the traditional way of life, the traditional concept, and traditional worldviews, yung kasi yung yaman ng kultura na hindi mawala. Sabi nga namin, pagka yung katutubo, naging masyado ng ang tawag namin tagalay, sa Tagalog na, nasisira na talaga yung maraming mga values. So, we need to be able to preserve what is good in the culture, but at the same time, we need to adapt to the new ways of the new civilization, so to say, new ways of the lowlanders. Kaya, yun po, dalawa yun eh. At the same time, preserving what is good in the culture, at the same time, helping them to adapt to the new ways of
Wala.
Thank you, Father.
Kasi nagsabi na nga, your is unstable. Internet is unstable. Ayan na. Lakas na.
Thank you, Father.
Okay, any more questions? Oh, by the way, again, for our members, we are going to have our General Assembly on October 8th. So I think you have received our letter asking you, reminding you to renew your membership so that you will be a member in good standing and you can vote in the General Assembly on October 8th. Okay?
And maybe we should invite others who are not yet members to be members.
Yes. Those who want to be members, please let us know. We will invite you to our General Assembly to be to observe and to sign your membership registration form. Although you will not be able to vote at once because it is our policy that only members, those who have been members for 1 year can vote during elections. Okay, so we have had a, yes?
Maria, I just would like to read this good comment from Miss Sharon. She said, from the education sector, we also have the responsibility of teaching the younger generation to protect the environment.
Oh, that's wonderful, right? It's true. Yes. Dapat may palakpakan tayo, no? Tayong palakpakan. Okay. Are there any more? There are so many comments, but like I said, they're just saying thank you and praising the what's this? Our speakers, no? So we are going to now to move on to the last portion. Oh, by the way, I received a private message that we have a participant from San Francisco, USA. That's
Wow.
Michael Agliardo. Oh, nice. Hindi na lang tayo all over the Philippines. Meron pang abroad. No, I think that's the advantage of holding this Kamayan Forum online because we can have more people, no, than physically going to the Kamayan restaurant. But of course, iba naman ang dynamics nun. Yung face-to-face tayo, nag-uusap, iba naman ang dynamics nun. But, okay din to, no? It's fun. And I would like to remind you also that we are going to have the next Kamayan Forum on October 16. So we always have this every third Friday of the month. So, except for the time na tumigil tayo because of COVID, and we had to arrange for this Zoom webinars, uninterrupted po yung ating Kamayan Forum for the last 30 years. So thank you very much to Kamayan Forum for sponsoring us for that long, and to Forest Foundation Philippines for assisting us. Thank you very much. And now we are going to, before we go to the wrap up, ang dami kong commercial, no? Do not sign off. Please stay until the end, because we are going to have a photo op. We always have a batch picture of each Kamayan session. So when we end this session, we are going to take a screenshot of all our participants. That's when you turn on your video so that we can take a picture of everyone. So please stay until the end. Meantime, I will call on my co-moderator, ang poging-poging si Carlo Garcia, to give his brief recap and parting shot. Carlo.
Do I still need to give a recap?
Well, yung take mo na lang siguro. Or parting shot mo.
I just like to thank our dear speakers. And it's an honor and privilege to share the same screen with you, Attorney Mackie, Father, and Ms. Yoli. I'm glad I'm here. I learned a lot from the three of you. And of course, I would like to thank the participants who are here with us today. Read.
Okay. Alam mo, ang dami-dami kong gustong sabihin. Kasi my heart is full. I like this kind of conversation. You know, you may spiritual aspect, because really, when you talk about personal and social transformation or collective transformation, we cannot but touch on the spiritual aspect of our existence. Kasi nandyan naman talaga yan eh. And nature, our relationship with nature is a sacred thing, and that is spiritual. Ito yung experience ko ngayong hapon. Ito yung magandang klase ng pagmimina. Ang dami kong naminang ginto ngayong hapon dito sa Kamayan Forum. Golden nuggets of wisdom that will hopefully bring about the change in consciousness that we want to see. Because, as everyone has said, transformation cannot happen without individual and collective transformation. We together create our world. So let's think about it. Let's feel our oneness with the earth and with one another. And let's do it. Let's change the world. Okay. Thank you very much. And now, for the last word, we will hear it from our president, Dr. Nina Galang.
Well, this has been a very, very enriching session. From the inspiring, from the philosophical, to the rationale and framework, to the actual mechanics of the law. I think, was it Attorney Mackie, who said that we may or may not, or was it Ayoli? Maybe this law might not pass, but I think the journey towards getting the law passed is as important as the final passage. When this law is discussed, even among ourselves, the questions already came up. There's already the question of survival versus utilitarianism, survival versus kinship. If we have to eat a shrimp, it's for our survival, but we're utilizing the shrimp. And so these things we will be discussing. And in the process, we will be enriching ourselves. But hopefully, more importantly, because we are all of like mind, I think already, hopefully we will be shifting the paradigm of those beyond us. Because I think this is already what is called for now. We talk to ourselves, of course, we support and encourage each other, but we have to go beyond our communities, beyond our comfort zones, and spread the paradigm. As the phrase says, it's a shifting, it's a gradual change. And we know that things are not black and white. There will be shades of understanding of what are the rights of nature, even among ourselves, and definitely with a bigger community. So it will be an exciting time. It's an exciting challenge, but we're all one in in believe in our paradigm of that nature has to be respected. It's a gift of God. We are all interconnected. How do we ensure a full life for us and for all other creatures? So good luck to us, especially those who will be campaigning actively for the passage of the law. Let us please update us. And if you need another Kamayan to explain the journey, this is always open to you. Thank you very much, Father Edu, Yoli, and Attorney Maki. And thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. See you next month.
Yeah, see you on October 16th. So we will now have our batch photo. Shafi, do you see everyone? Please.
Yes, everyone who would like to be part of the batch photo to turn on their web cameras. Only if you want to join. But we have a lot of participants today, so I will take 3 batches. So just look at the camera and keep smiling. Okay na po? Okay, baka shy po yung iba kasi naka-off pa yung webcam. So, I'll go ahead na po.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Okay, next batch po. Just keep looking at the camera. 1, 2, 3. Okay. One more. 1, 2, 3. Okay na po. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Shafi.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Carlo.
Bye,
Very
everyone.
productive session.
Salamat,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Father, take care.
Thank you, Father
Thank you.
Edu.